Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Thursday, the 14th of May, one day closer to Christmas. I
Yeah,
don't know.
you're
It
counting
seems like
down to
the
Christmas.
and it's. I mentioned that because I saw it today, Joe. I saw it today. I saw a winter forecast for the winter
Already?
already today,
Already?
May
Oh,
14th. I saw a winter forecast out in the internet land. I'm not going to mention who put it up. I'm not going to mention where it is. Just the idea that we just got past Mother's Day, and we haven't even had our first 90-degree day. Some folks have had their first 80-degree day, but many people still haven't. And it's not even Memorial Day yet, and they already are talking about the winter of 2021. It's like, stop. Just stop it. You want to guess what the forecast was for the
okay.
Northeast?
Let me see. Let me guess.
Take a wild guess. You'll never guess
Um,
in 100 years what the
Very
forecast was.
cold with abnormally a lot of snow.
You know, it
Oh,
is.
really?
Yeah, the shocker. There's a shocker. Is there any other forecast that's even allowed to be made? Uh,
Mild, mild weather. Another year like what we just had. Another winter like we just had with you know a,
when
a
stuff like this
paucity of,
starts to,
a paucity of snow and
yeah,
mild temperatures. Or
when stuff like that starts to happen, where you get, the same nonsense just goes on, uh, where the forecast is really more about how many clicks you're going to get on it rather than what you actually think is going to happen. It just makes me root harder and harder for another winter where we hardly see a flake or an ice pellet. I mean, it really, it's just preposterous, and
so what?
I just wanted to mention that.
So what was the forecast? I
Oh, below normal temperatures and above normal snowfall for the
Of
Northeast.
course, of course.
Naturally. Okay. So we'll leave it there. Okay, so we busy, busy, busy here. We have severe weather issues, and I was actually, Joe, shocked. Not only shocked, but I was stunned. I was shocked and stunned. The Storm Prediction Center this morning went from that marginal risk. They expanded the area and they added a rather robust looking area of slight risk for
Right.
severe weather, which that was not a surprise to me. Maybe that they added as large as they did was a bit of a surprise, but that wasn't too bad. But I was absolutely stunned this afternoon when they actually took it up another notch and went to enhance risk of
Enhanced.
severe weather from northeastern Pennsylvania all the way up into central New England. That actually surprised me that they were that aggressive.
If you looked at the technical discussion out of the National Weather Service forecast office in New York, they were talking about Cape, and normally the higher the number, the more likely that it'll be warm and humid enough and unstable enough for possible severe weather. And this goes to show you what happens sometimes in a typo. They talked about yesterday for tomorrow, Cape values anywhere from 1,000 to 15,000.
Okay.
And I said, I don't think it's possible to get
Nah,
15,000. I think there's one too many zeros in that estimation or
right.
guesstimate. So
Right. This actually, to me, looks like it might be a rather robust setup for upstate New York and for interior New England. Not that we couldn't see some severe cells down close to the coast. It just seems like it might time out a bit better in terms of catching the maximum daytime heating in those areas that are north and west of the coast. We'll have to see if those, if there's some kind of line that forms with the cold front. We'll have to see whether those storms hold together after sunset because the timing is a little bit questionable in terms of when those storms get here. They may not reach the coast until after dark.
correct. But we also have a situation where the front is not necessarily coming in from the west. This front looks like it's going to be drooping or dropping southward from the north and northwest.
Right,
And
and and and
sometimes,
and that squelches the marine layer. It basically minimizes it to just the immediate coastal areas. And not it's not like we're going to see a south wind. We're going to have a west wind pretty much all day long tomorrow.
Right, west to maybe becoming west southwest later in the day, but you're right. That tends to keep any kind of sea breeze effect that might otherwise knock the thunderstorms down as they move into the Long Island area. Now, Long Island is not in the slight zone or even I think the
No,
enhanced zone.
no, wait. Actually, I'll bring up the map. The slight actually touches the North Shore. So
Okay,
hang on one second. I'll bring it up now. I've got I have a larger version of it. Wait, that's not it. Hang on a second. Um, I
and it looks
just
like the cold front itself will move through probably sometime around midnight to 2 a.m. So I think in the 6 hours leading up to that frontal passage, which would mean from
Here we go.
6 o'clock to 6 p.m. tomorrow night to maybe 1 or 2 in the morning, that'll be the time frame for the potential for really active weather in the form of thunderstorms, and some of these could be again rather nasty indeed.
Enhanced risk. The southern edge of enhanced risk covers Sussex, Warren, and part of Passaic County in northwest New Jersey, most of northeastern PA. It looks like the southern edge probably goes through your driveway or maybe your neighbor's house. So maybe you're in slight risk, but your neighbor's in enhanced risk, but close enough. And then running up in Connecticut along and north and west of Route 84, and runs all the way up north of Albany, and in Vermont, north of Burlington, almost to Montpelier. And you see the slight risk that sort of envelopes around that. The slight risk area is fairly large. That yellow line just touches New York City, maybe Route 78 in New Jersey, New York City, uh, just barely touches the North Shore of Long Island, covers most of southern Connecticut, and then goes back across the rest of Pennsylvania into Ohio. Yeah, when you get those fronts that come down this way from the northwest, Joe, yeah, the sea breeze gets the winds ahead of it tend to be more westerly, and that is that plus the fact that there is a fairly decent upper trough that's swinging through. It might be supported to hold these cells together rather than see them fall apart when they reach the coastline.
Right, and yeah, it seems to me in my memory that whenever we get the weather fronts dropping again more out of the north and northwest as opposed to the fronts that sweep in from the west directly, those north and northwesterly frontal passages, those are the ones that have historically brought some really nasty conditions. And the one that really jumps out in my mind is one that occurred a good long time ago, almost 40 years ago, um, in July of 1983, when they had the Diana Ross concert in Central Park.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was. I remember watching uh, as the rains were coming down and as the thunder was blasting away, and people in Central Park were running every which way. There was Diana Ross holding a microphone, surrounded by all this electronic equipment, and saying, "Everybody, don't worry about it. It's going to be all right. The rain isn't too bad." And I'm saying to myself, this is going to be the first time on live television because NBC News, Channel 4 in New York, I think it was live at 5. They were covering that concert. And I'm saying this is going to be the first time we're ever going to see a human being get
Oh God,
sprayed.
God forbid. Well, it's
Uh,
also in a front like that I saw. I had some. This was back in the early '90s that the front of my house took a bolt hit just as I had walked inside the house after I felt my hair stand on end, and it
right,
fried all my appliances. And I remember for one of the thing about that line of storms was the fact that the lightning display. This was in May, by the way, when it happened. The lightning display was something ferocious.
hmm,
Bolts everywhere, and it wasn't even late in the day. It was actually mid to late morning that these storms went on through. So look, since we're on the subject of severe weather, let's stay with that for now. We're also, of course, going to talk about the likelihood that we're going to have a subtropical depression or maybe even a subtropical storm. If not at this time tomorrow night, certainly by Saturday. We'll see it on the map. So we're going to get to that in just a second. But we also have severe weather risks going on tonight, and that is indicative of what SPC is showing with their live radar view here, and the working severe thunderstorm watch is a new severe thunderstorm watch just popping up now in northeast Kansas, northwest Missouri. Slight risk runs from Kansas eastward across Illinois, Indiana, and just about reaches Chicago, and then runs up into northwest Ohio. There is a very nasty looking line of storms right now, Joe, that's moving across central Ohio. You can see it here on the tight radar view. I've got that up on the screen. Some pretty big cells in there, and it's 7:10 Eastern time, by the way. So if you're watching this on a replay, always remember that when it comes to severe weather, you're looking at these radars. They're all dated. So be sure you go to your local National Weather Service forecast office page for the latest weather information regarding severe weather, and you can do that by going to weather.gov. Nasty line there, and out to the west, we're seeing another line. What looks like the beginnings of another line forming from south central Iowa into northwest Missouri, northeast Kansas, and that is where that new severe thunderstorm watch boxes up. We've also got some very nasty cells across Louisiana, right along I-10 from west to east, from the Texas side near Beaumont, Port Arthur, running straight east past Baton Rouge to Slidell, just north of New Orleans. It looks like most of the cell activity is on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain, and some heavier rains moving into southern and central Mississippi with some scattered thunderstorms there. And not to leave this one out, Joe, in South Florida, uh, south of Miami and down to the Keys, you're seeing some solid rain there. This is, of course, the beginnings of what will be our subtropical depression, uh, or eventually maybe a subtropical storm.
That storm we were talking about, how yesterday we were anticipating the development of another system by the end of the weekend near the mid-Atlantic coast. I got to tell you, though, that the models are really holding on to that subtropical system, and it may continue to live right on into the early part of next week. It not necessarily will have any impact on anywhere along the eastern United States, but it could be swirling round and round through even Tuesday or Wednesday of next week out over the North Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, and the impact is really indirect because it's basically bottlenecking everything up to its west and forcing lower pressures that are going to be coming out of the Great Lakes and forcing them down into the mid-Atlantic states. So that's going to mean for uh, a tough situation here with respect to uh, some gloom and doom for at least several days, and also whether we might have to deal with some coastal flooding. And with the east winds Tuesday into Wednesday, I'm still thinking that that's a fair possibility. I've got the latest visible loop here, and you can see that uh, unlike yesterday when we had what literally was very disorganized looking convection that was starting to pop up through the Florida Straits, it was pointing out how the clouds were moving in two different directions. You're starting to see this look on the satellite. I'm going to try to see if I can get a better shot of this. Let's see if I can find a better shot. Maybe I can go to the GOES and take a look. Just give me 1 second here. We'll bring that up. Okay, so let's put this back up on the top. Let's go to the GOES shot. Yeah, this shot is better. You can see the system in its entirety. It's beginning to get it's instead of having the stuff kind of straddled out east west. It's starting to get a little curvature. We're at the beginning process here of a high moving out to the east and pressures that are going to start falling fairly rapidly off the Florida East Coast, where you're going to see the low develop. It's not a shabby looking start to things with regards to the satellite presentation.
Yeah, and they still as the storm prediction, not the storm predictions under the National Hurricane Center, I guess, are bumping up the probabilities now once we get past tonight, tomorrow for development of this thing.
Yeah, they were at 70% for 48 hours and 80% now in 5 days. This thing's going to go. I mean, you look at all the models, they all have it in one form or another. Uh, Whether it just becomes a subtropical, maybe I think we'll get a subtropical depression out of it. The subtropical storm part of it will probably depend on all the other things that are going on in the upper atmosphere, which we mentioned yesterday when we referred to, quote, baroclinic deepening, which is basically how non-tropical systems intensify. This system is going to have that influence on it, and it may achieve, you might get tropical storm force winds to develop rather quickly as the shortwave that's coming around starts to exert its influence there.
Do you remember? I forget the name of the hurricane, and this was when you were at News 12 Long Island, and they had actually gotten, and it was not Neil Frank, it was somebody else, the head of the Hurricane Center, or maybe it was Neil Frank was the head, and maybe you just got an associate or one of the lead forecasters. And I think you threw a question at me. I think you mentioned the interaction with the baroclinicity, the baroclinic ribbon, and the guy who was talking with you, he had a look on his face like, why is he asking me this kind of? Do you
Right,
remember that?
because yeah, one of the things about News 12 was having the freedom to really having much more of the freedom to be able to get meteorological, which was something that no one would do on a regular network television station.
Right.
It was unheard of. So I think the fact, we're talking about back in the early 90s, the late 80s, early 90s. So nobody was doing that at all. Uh, the shows were not, very few weathercasters were doing technical shows,
Right.
and yeah,
I
it kind of threw them for a loop.
It did, and you figure that, or the person who was answering the questions probably saying to him, usually getting the questions like, well, when is it going to hit? How strong are the winds going to be? And all of a sudden, you hit him with a question like that. And I know what you were doing. I think basically what you were hoping is that he
I'm
would answer in
evil.
a technical fashion, and then you would turn around to the anchors. I think it was Lee Tyrell and Carol Silva, and just simply say what he meant to say or what he was trying to say, and put it into plain English for
Right,
the.
right.
So
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun though. But those were the days. All right,
yes,
let's get back to this baby here. So while this is going on, by the way, we're probably going to wind up jumping around because of the fact that you've got um, everything that's happening and how all of this is going to interact and impact other areas as we go through the weekend and next week. Starting to
incidentally, I don't want
go
to
ahead.
interrupt, but I on YouTube, and it's been now like this for about the last 60 to 90 seconds. The screen is black. Let's see if anybody on the chat board agrees with
Whoa.
me here. They're seeing the same thing. A black screen. There's an exclamation point with a circle around it, and it says "Video playback interrupted. Please try again."
Okay, hold on. Um, no,
I don't
we're
know.
still fine. Everything seems to be fine. Nobody is saying that they can't hear us. You guys can hear us. You guys can see us. Let us know. That would be great. But it seems like everything's just moving along. It's moving on my way. Maybe while your signal on your side might require a bit of a refresh.
Okay.
All right, so you take care of that.
I'm going to refresh right now.
All right, so let's go to since we're on the subject.
Oh,
Let's
we're
go.
back.
Let's go. I'm going to go to Tropical Tidbits, which is your go-to site for all weather models, all things hurricane. Because if you go there, you got hurricane, and we're going to go actually bring up current storms. This is where, of course, we've got Vong Fong still out in the West Pacific, down to 65 knots. It's a minimal hurricane as um, it straddles the Philippines and moves to the northeast. No spaghetti plots that I saw yet. However, let's see. Let's see if he's got. Nope, not yet. But we do have Joe the ensemble GFS, so we could take a look at this, and you can gather by the members here, all very tightly clustered around the mean track. Actually, even out to day 5, members of the ensembles with this have this low pretty much uh, within about 150 miles of each other. So that's unusual. That gives you a lot of high confidence that the track is going to be the way the models are showing. The 18Z GFS, which I just looked at briefly, tucks the low in a little bit further to the left to the Carolina coast, offshore, before it swings it on out to the east northeast. But uh, the main threat for the coastal for um, any coastal areas will be southeast Florida and the Keys because of the rain that's going on now. And in the development stage, there'll probably be some more rain there tomorrow. But in terms of anything substantial regarding wind, I really don't think that's going to be an issue. That's going to mainly stay offshore.
Yes, I agree. I mean, a good part of that storm looks like it's going to be pretty well offshore. I'm just, amazed about the longevity, the fact that this thing does wind up, will become either a subtropical or maybe just a regular tropical system, and after that, it's not just going to pop on and then pop off. It's not going to be something that's going to be in the tropical cyclone category for a day or so. This thing looks like once it gets started, it's going to be around for more than just a few days. And
Yeah,
on this, the weekend before, or 1 week before the Memorial Day weekend.
right. And a good 16 days before the start of the hurricane season. Here's the Canadian ensembles, which have a little bit more variability between where the westernmost member is and where the easternmost member is. Still, most of them are kind of clustered around the mean track there, which is where pretty much where the GFS has things happening. So again, the confidence level here is fairly high. Maybe the Canadian is a little bit more tucked in to the left. I'd be curious just to see what the spaghetti plots have. But look, the bottom line is that this is going to pretty much, I mean, it should behave according to plan. My main concern with this is, again, what happens after it moves out to the northeast as it gets basically trapped under that collapsing upper flow that's going to be occurring uh, along the east coast, and how is that going to impact the weather in the eastern part of the northeast and the mid-Atlantic states early next week? I think those questions are still up in the air.
Right, right. And I agree with you.
All right, so let's. I got the GFS. I'm sorry, I got the NAM 3 kilometer up, and we can look at the subtropical system and the cold front coming down for us tomorrow, so we can look at how it handles the severe weather at the same time. And actually, Joe, by tomorrow morning, the NAM, the 3 kilometer NAM already has a developed low in the Florida Straits and brings that low center by tomorrow afternoon, just east southeast of Miami, and it has it down to a 998. So I'm thinking that's probably one of the reasons why NHC, too many acronyms, NHC, the National Hurricane Center, suddenly bumped up their probability in the next 48 hours to almost as high as they have it for the next 5 days. Because if this low forms, it looks like it's going to form rather quickly. Meanwhile, you see the cold front there, Joe. By tomorrow evening at 0Z, the line of storms runs across southern New Hampshire, Vermont, northwestern Massachusetts, and then goes east-west through the middle Hudson Valley and along the Pennsylvania-New York state line. It's still not that far. That's pretty far north and west. I'm wondering whether there might be some renegade storms that form out ahead of the line late tomorrow afternoon or evening, some scattered heavy, isolated storms that pop up. What's your opinion on that?
I think we may get a couple of showers. Actually, I think we'll see a bit of rain here probably later tonight and into the early hours of tomorrow morning. And then a good chunk of tomorrow, I think, is going to turn out to be dry. In fact, after some early clouds, the sun will probably come out in the midday and afternoon to a degree. And the longer the sun is out, the more likely it's going to warm up. And the more warm it gets, the more unstable the air is. And then I think maybe we might have a renegade shower or storm pop up as early as 3 or 4 o'clock. But I think the main dose, if you will, of moisture and convective activity is going to probably hold off until near or after sundown tomorrow night. I think most of the action is going to be in the dark hours of Friday evening,
Right.
and then the last of those showers probably moving on out between sometime like midnight to 2 a.m. Incidentally, I keep refreshing, and after about 2 or 3 seconds, this thing keeps coming back with a black screen and keeps telling me
Really?
video back interrupted. I don't know what
Hang
the
on one
story is.
second. Let me just double check.
Well, I think this is my problem. I don't know.
Uh, all right, guys. I assume I'm gonna just you guys can see us, can see and hear us. Just checking. Yeah, my message is typing on the chat board,
Right.
and I haven't gotten a response yet. And it's showing us on Joe. It's got to be on your end because I'm seeing the playback on my screen coming back, and you're there, and it says live 25 minutes into 25:38, and the clock is running. So we'll just keep going. Does Mrs. Rayo see us?
Um, I'd have to get out of the shot and ask her, but
All right, don't worry about it. Although no
well,
one's responded to my chat question. Very odd. You know what? There's one other thing I can do here. Let's see something.
I'm going to just get out of the shot for a second.
You get out of the shot. We're trying to rectify to see if there is a technical issue here, folks. Just hang on one second.
Are you able
Um,
to do anything or see the chat board or whatever? I have to get out of the shot and
yeah, no, Joe, it's working on my end. It must be something on your end.
Chat board. There's no chat board. And I went out, I went back in several times, had trouble picking
all
it
right.
up.
Okay.
I
All
still
right.
have you and no chat board.
All right. So she says there's no chat board. She can see us, but there's no chat board.
Oh, okay. Well, there must be a YouTube issue because I'm seeing everything fine. Let's just keep going and we'll see what you know.
Okay.
So
All right.
anyway, we one of the things one of the things that's a little bit different this time. You know how Joe, we're always struggling to get that warm front through. I don't think there's going to be any such struggle this time around. The warm front's already cutting across Pennsylvania down into eastern Maryland, and I'm looking across Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky. They got temperatures well up into the 70s to around 80, but the dew points are well up into the 60s in some places. I'm a little surprised at how high the dew points are. And this is something that they did mention in SPC mentioned in their discussion about the fact that the dew points were going to be on the high side tomorrow, getting up into the 60s, which for this time of year is a little bit unusual.
Right. Right. And yeah, we're going to be in that warm wedge of air. I agree with you. I think the warm front, well, the warm front is going to be responsible or the catalyst for any precipitation we see tonight into early tomorrow.
Right,
Then
which
that's
is on the
going to,
radar, by the way. I brought the radar up in the Northeast, and you see the stuff in upstate New York now moving eastward. That's
and
that's ahead of the warm front.
right. And then after that, we'll be in the warm sector, and then we'll just have to wait for the cold front, which again, I think will probably move on through around midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning. And after that, I've been saying the last few days, I didn't know how much in the way of cloud cover we'd have to deal with on Saturday, but it's looking now more and more like Saturday's going to be a pretty nice, bright, and fairly sunny day.
I think certainly the first half. I mean, maybe there might be some clouds that start to come in later in the day or during the afternoon. Particularly, I think if you go south of New York City,
Right.
but you might hold on for a while because there is going to be some dry air in here that's going to wedge in. I still maintain though that Saturday is going to be definitely the better of the 2 weekend days, in my never to be humble opinion.
Well, yes, I think Saturday will be number one, a warmer day. I think it could be as much as 10 degrees cooler on Sunday because of an onshore flow. And I think there'll be more in the way of cloudiness on Sunday as opposed to Saturday. But I also maintain now that I think both Saturday and Sunday should be dry days. And if we do get any precip, it would not be until after dark on Sunday evening.
You don't think there might be some warm frontal stuff that pops up during the day on
Well,
Sunday?
I'm thinking, I've got a bias because I do usually look mostly at Hudson Valley weather, but maybe in places down towards central and southern Jersey, or maybe into the New Jersey, Pennsylvania border. Yeah, you're right. There may be something by late Sunday or Sunday evening. I think the further north you go and east you go, the more likely it'll stay dry for much, if not all, of Sunday.
Now, I've got the upper air up, and this is unusual. Uh, and not that not that it's that the it doesn't hasn't happened before. Of course, it has to an from time to time. You just don't see it very often. But when you get deeper into the spring, and the jet stream in general is retreating to the north, you do get sometimes sort of weird things happen, particularly in May and into the first part of June, where you get energy that gets sort of left behind, and you start to see what these cutoff lows that form all over the place. At least right now, when we look at the upper air going into Friday, it's fairly straightforward. It's a west-southwest flow across the United States. We've got an upper ridge here in the east, a trough off the east coast, and of course you've got this next shortwave trough. Now that's going to be the system that helps to produce those thunderstorms tomorrow. It's nothing like some of the short waves we saw back in the last few weeks, but there's definitely a little bit of indentation here. But it's what happens after that is odd. And the subtropical storm here that we're talking about off the Florida coast is part of this whole equation, because as we go through the weekend, Joe, you got a ridge that actually builds up the East Coast. The subtropical system is underneath it. And then you've got this other energy that moves across the northern Rockies and suddenly starts to drop down through the southern lakes and into the Ohio Valley. It acts as it tries to kick the subtropical storm out. There's another trough off of Newfoundland, Nova Scotia that's dropping southeastward that just kind of traps the subtropical system in between. I'm actually quite shocked here, Joe. I'm looking at the upper low for Tuesday. The upper low drops from Wisconsin down to southern Indiana and then drops down into northern Georgia. I never anticipated, I figured it would drop down maybe into the mid-Atlantic states, but now the models seem to want to take this upper low pretty far south into the southeastern part of the United States, and that maybe alters the equation to next week to an extent for the Northeast. Maybe we'll get some drier air that comes down from the north for, say, Wednesday, Thursday, and Thursday. Uh, we'll see. I'm not 100% sure yet, but that's one possibility.
I kept showers or rain uh, through Monday and Tuesday. Mentioned maybe some lingering precipitation, maybe first thing on Wednesday. But then from Wednesday onward, yeah, I think there could be enough dry air up to near 70 or thereabouts next Thursday, and maybe into the 70s in time for the start of the Memorial Day weekend
Right,
getaway day. Although nobody's going to be going anywhere, I would assume, or
right.
getting anywhere.
Well, one of the things I think you have to be careful of here is if you look at this upper low, okay, so here goes your subtropical system is out in the ocean. Okay, that we've got figured out. Okay, that's going. Um, I'm just trying to get my pen out. So that's trying to go out to the northeast. You've got this upper low that's dropping southward. You have this the jet stream, the southern edge of the jet in northern New England because of the trough that's out to the east. And in the meantime, we don't want to ignore the west. You got a fairly deep trough that's coming into the western part of the United States early next week. That's probably going to bring some rains there down into maybe even into Southern California. But when we if that upper low drops down into North Georgia, I think and then after that, Joe, it's still intact. It just meanders in the Ohio Valley and then moves northeast into Virginia and eventually off the coast of New Jersey late next week. You might wind up with it's entirely possible you could wind up with a situation where we've got rain Monday into Tuesday, then that starts to pull out. We dry out a little bit. The further north you go, the drier it'll be. So you dry out a little bit Wednesday into early Thursday, and then you have to throw in the chance for some showers maybe later Thursday and Friday as the upper low comes back up and moves up to the northeast. So you might, I don't know. It's the models seem to be changing from run to run with regards to how they're handling this whole upper flow here across the United States. It's very bizarre. Very bizarre. It's going to be very difficult to put a definitive forecast out until we get a really good feel for what this upper low in the east is going to do.
Yeah, one of the people I went to college with, Pete Bergman, and he was talking about that almost like throwing his arms up in the air and saying, "What do you say about a pattern like this? How do you forecast with a pattern like this?" And you throw it's kind of like the old saying: you take the paint bucket, you throw it on the wall, and you hope something's going to stick or something looks good. It's
Yeah.
it's difficult.
Here's the surface on the GFS to show you how it plays out. And of course, you've got the high builds. The high is just south of James Bay by Saturday evening. I think again, areas south of New York City down into Virginia might start dealing with clouds coming in with a light southeast flow that starts to strengthen a bit on Sunday. See, my issue for Sunday is you got a warm front that's going to be pinched down from a low that's back in Illinois. You've got southeast isobars. I don't know. I think there's going to be clouds around on Sunday for sure, and I'm still thinking that there might also be at least a few scattered showers until the warm front decides what it's going to do. And then of course you've got rain over New England back down to about New York City Sunday night into Monday. All the while the subtropical low is moving almost straight north, and it looks like it's about to get very close to Cape Hatteras before it gets ejected out to the east, which is what the GFS does. And then on Tuesday, you got a 1029 low just north of the St. Lawrence River, okay, near Montreal, and a 993-ish low with the subtropical system out at 36 and 70 and 36 and a half and 70 and a half. Then there's another low at 35.8 and 81.4 in western North Carolina. You've got a tightening gradient with an east wind here starting later Monday through the day on Tuesday and then lasting even into early Wednesday. I think we're going to have some coastal flooding issues here on Tuesday.
Well, yeah, and especially since I mentioned yesterday, we'll be approaching new moon next week, about the middle of next week. So the tides will be astronomically higher, even without any kind of a weather disturbance. And now you factor that into the picture. Plus, you've got this scenario of those gusty and robust onshore winds. So, yeah, it seems like a good bet that there'll be some sort of coastal flooding issue. May I enter a Dvoskinism into
Oh,
this?
by all means.
The definition of beach erosion,
Yes.
the great terrain robbery.
Oh, good God. Did you have to? Really? Was that necessary?
I had to. I'm sorry.
That's all right. But you see what I mean with that upper low and the surface low with it that just hangs around and generates showers
Right.
just to our south on Thursday. Down, southern PA down in Virginia, North Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee. It looks like, in this sort of situation where you don't have a defined surface low, where the upper low is, the air is unstable. So you wind up getting showers and maybe even some thunderstorms that develop, scattered showers and storms underneath the upper low that develop during the day and then they die off at night only to fire up again during the day. So the position of that upper low is going to be very important. Meanwhile, by the way, with that system coming into the northwest, we have one that of course is departing. But with that deep trough that's coming into the west, we're seeing quite a bit of rain being generated there as we move into Monday and Tuesday. And then even later in the period, it looks like some kind of low that forms out. I'm just running it backwards. A low that forms out of Nevada and gets all wrapped up and finds its way eventually up into Canada. It looks like even some snow being produced in parts of Montana uh, uh, late next Wednesday night or Thursday. We'll see if that winds up holding together and being there by the time we get there.
Yes.
So there.
So there. I mean, you get so such such an extensive explanation. What there's very little for me to add to the whole thing.
Oh, you can add, you add plenty.
All right. Well, how about the thought that maybe that high pressure system in Canada might be just a tad stronger in the days to come than what is being indicated now, thereby pushing a lot of that moisture that you are concerned about for Thursday night and Friday a little further to the south. It could be a
Oh,
little high.
no question. I mean, if that high is stronger, it could wind up suppressing.
You see,
I agree.
I can add something to this
Well, no,
conversation.
no, I think that's certainly a possibility that you could see that high suppress everything further south. The upper low position is going to be important. I'm just surprised at how far, we went from the models taking the upper low into West Virginia, Delaware, Maryland, which of course is ominous for us as far as a long duration gloom and doom scenario with regards to rain and clouds and low clouds and everything else. I just found it hard to. I just was very surprised, and the European was pretty much the same. That the models take the upper low and dive it as far south as they do. I got, by the way, WPC's rainfall forecast map. By the way, is still very bullish as regards to rainfall over the next 7 days, on the order of at least an inch and a half, running all the way down into Virginia and then northeast to about New York City. From there, north and west with heavy rains, upstate New York into New England, western New York, back through the northern Ohio Valley, lower lakes, and of course running down the middle and lower Mississippi Valley over into East Texas. And you can also see the big rains being generated. It looks like some 3 to 5 inch rain amounts in southeast Florida from the subtropical system, based on WPC's forecast. And I know they need some rain down there, so that's a good thing.
And yesterday, if I recall, the WPC 7-day outlook had a dry area, almost like a donut hole over northern Georgia. I was going to make a comment about the fact that your daughter and son-in-law and grandkids will probably have a bit of dry weather over the next 7 days, but now they've kind of filled that donut hole in. It doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of precipitation, but maybe something on the order of, let's say, a trace to maybe a tenth of an inch. Still not bad compared to what other parts of the country, like our area of the country, may very well be seeing in the coming days ahead.
I'm being told by everybody that they lost the chat board, and there must be some kind of YouTube issue going on, because it is going out from my end, and it looks perfectly fine because I can see. I can basically have like the YouTube control room, so I can see what everything looks like, and it looks fine. So I don't know what's going on. I'll have to
I've
see.
got it. If nothing else, I've got the video back. It's not going to that black screen every 3 or 4 seconds, but I will side with both my wife upstairs and also with everybody else. There is no chat board, so
Yeah.
I
And meanwhile,
can't
I
believe
pulled up the video separately. I got it up here separately, and let's see. Isn't technology wonderful? Did you ever think that we would have to be?
Let me show you how to create an amazing ad using
Okay. I got to just
stock footage.
hang on.
Go to artgrid.io. Look at.
there is no chat board. So
Yeah. No, I see us fine. Oh yes, William Uber just his chat message just came up and said strange things are happening on YouTube. Damn the weatherman. What do I think about the severe weather for tomorrow? I think there might be, at least down along the coast, there might be some renegade cells, and we'll have to wait till after sunset for the main line to come down. That's
right.
that's that's how I see it at the moment. Oh, I'm
The only
starting to get some chat now. Some chat stuff's working now. I see people's
mine
messages
still is
coming
not,
up.
so I can't.
Frank
Mine,
Riggio says it's just too many people on YouTube, and YouTube can't handle it. There's probably some truth to that.
probably. Any thoughts on if we do get a weather watch posted tomorrow, whether it'll be a severe thunderstorm watch or maybe a tornado watch, or
You know
kind
what?
of up
I
in the air?
didn't see when they went to enhanced. I didn't see what they said with regards to. Hang on one second, Joe. Um, I didn't see what they said with regards to the probability of hail and tornado. So let's bring their map back up. Let's go in here. I'll bring the map up for tomorrow. Hang on, I got to put it up on the screen for everybody to see. So there's the enhanced. So they went for, I did notice this from earlier. Now they went to enhance. They actually do have a fairly high. They have a 5% probability of of tornadoes.
Right.
So
That's
maybe
pretty high.
maybe it could be a tornado watch that winds up going up.
Yeah. And the question that I know that they've been bantering back and forth about is, well, the time frame that they'll be watching will probably be in the early evening, but will any kind of cooling, diurnal cooling, get involved to possibly weaken some of these storms to a degree where they may not be quite as fierce or as potent as what they might be, let's say, during the mid and late afternoon. So,
Well, but on the other hand, let's also remember that where the line is late tomorrow afternoon through upstate New York, those storms could wind up being pretty fierce.
right.
So we'll have that. I can't, I guess with all the technical issues, I don't see. Scott did not leave a question for tonight. I thought he did. I thought he had messaged it to me last night, but I'm guess it was the night before. All the days are just starting to pile up one on top of the other. Anthony Orr just told me, by the way, that YouTube had a power outage or something.
Aha.
So he says the live stream and that my page can't be found, but I can find it. So there must be some sort of regional thing going on with YouTube. Of course, how dare they have an outage during our show? They could have had the outage at 6 o'clock. They could have had the outage at 8 o'clock. No, they had to have the outage at 7 o'clock. This is completely and totally unacceptable. Don't you think?
What are you going to do? What are you going to do when the rent comes due? Rufus Raptus Johnson Brown.
Oh God!
Like that.
All right, so let's wrap it up with this. Okay, I watched I had never seen it before. The last episode of the Perry Mason series called "The Case of the Final Fade Out."
Right.
And I thought it was a fairly well done episode. Dick Clark is in that episode. So is Denver Pyle. There are 2 murders in this final episode. Okay.
And there were also 2 judges.
Yes. And then there's the actress, old actress, she's long gone now from this earth. Estelle Winwood was on. If you see a picture of Estelle Winwood and you've watched old movies, you've seen her along the way. And she plays an old actress that was given a part, and apparently she was very difficult in her time. Had a reputation for being difficult. She was accused of first-degree murder. The episode was well done. It turned out that Dick Clark did both murders.
Right.
Not to give it away, but I did. And it ends with.
I'm sorry that he had to die. He was a good Joe, but the other guy, he was a bum. I'm happy.
That's exactly what he said. Yes. That's exactly what he said. And and the show ends with. Oh, you did see it.
Yes.
So did you see how Hamilton Berger? Because Perry's always the one that takes everybody out to steak dinners. So in the last episode, they had Hamilton Berger, who couldn't even bring himself to ask him to take everybody out for a steak dinner. And then they just, they closed with the 3-shot of Della, Paul, and Perry there, planning their next case. It was kind of sad.
And do you know who played the second judge in the show?
Well, the second judge, the trial was Earl Stanley Gardner.
Right.
The creator of Perry Mason. The first judge that's in that episode, I forgot his name, but you would recognize him because he used to play the heavy in a lot of Three Stooges episodes, particularly the ones with Shemp. No, I'm serious.
To go from the Three Stooges to Perry Mason.
Well, hold on. I'm going to get the guy's name. Perry Mason, The Case of the Final Fade Out. Let's see the cast. Richard Anderson, James Stacy, Denver Pyle, Dick Clark. Kenneth MacDonald was the first judge.
Okay.
And Kenneth McDonald used to be. I'm just here. He is. I'm on the Internet Movie Database. He was born September 8th, 1901, in Portland, Indiana, and died on May 5th, 1972, in Woodland Hills, California. And he is best remembered as a foil for many of Columbia's comedy teams in the studio's two-reelers, particularly the Three Stooges. His
Mhm.
suave demeanor and rich, booming voice perfectly fit the role of the con man, crooked lawyer, criminal gang leader he often played, and he showed a surprising flair for physical comedy, taking a two-finger poke in the eyes from Mo Howard, a pie in the face from Larry Fine, or an iron bar on the head from Curly Howard with the best of them. He left the Columbia Shorts Department in 1955 and semi-retired from acting.
Yeah.
See, I told you.
Still ended up being the judge in Perry Mason. That's quite
Oh,
that's
yeah. Oh,
a shift in
absolutely.
venue.
And he never used a gavel. He always used a pencil when he would tap with the pencil. And, court will be recessed until 2 p.m. He would tap with the pencil.
Yes.
Exactly. All right, so look, let's wrap it up because who knows who's seeing us now and who isn't. So hope everything went well for you today, Mr. Rayo. I'm finishing my wine tonight.
Well, it was an interesting day. Let's put it that way. Well, I'm not sure, but we got through it. We got through another day.
Yep. And tomorrow is Friday, and then we have another weekend,
Yes.
and on it
But it doesn't
goes.
really matter anymore, does it?
No, it really
Every day
doesn't.
kind of melds into one. So
Yeah, it's all the same. It's all the same. All right. Have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll be on tomorrow night to 7 o'clock, and maybe we have some boom booms going on.
if not going on, I'm sure that we'll be watching them drop down toward us, and we'll see whether or not we're under a severe thunderstorm or maybe even a tornado watch. We'll be watching.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody. Thanks for being here. Sorry for